I'll try to be quick. I'll talk about 5 main areas, quickly touch on my personal experience, how I ended up in compliance, give you hopefully a bit of guidance in terms of all the different courses that you can do as someone starting in compliance, but also for those who manage very junior compliance professionals, help you give them a bit of guidelines of where they should head. We'll talk about stigmas of compliance, collaborating with the sales, internal stakeholder management, in particular with the new legislations, and some of the business accreditations. Personally, I've started my career 7-8 years ago. I think the #1 misconception in compliance is you need a law degree. I don't have a law degree. Studied sociology and politics, did the usual grad thing, left after university, traveled for a year, and then realized I need to sort my life together. Came back to UK. I think as majority people, at least the majority compliance professionals I talk to, we all somehow ended up in compliance by accident. I didn't know compliance even existed when I first started, especially in recruitment. So I actually went to a recruitment agency, hoping they're gonna help me find a job as an admin anywhere, just help me get the foot in. They offered me a job as an admin internally in compliance. Been in it for the last 8 years. Personally, I've started kind of collecting my compliance accreditations through Open University. Anyone who has never looked at Open University, they have an incredible amount of free courses, free badges that you can collect. Everything from starting with law, to contract law, to UK compliance. Again, great way to help your juniors to start building up their portfolio as well. From Open University, I went to EDX. EDX as well, an amazing online platform that holds all sorts of professional qualifications, everything from micro masters in legal to just very short couple of hours courses from Ivy League universities. I personally done contract law with Harvard University. It took me over a year, probably cost me a lot of sanity, but it was amazing. And again, at that time in my career, I was working for a large international recruitment agency who had offices in the States. So I've tried to kind of shape my qualifications around what I'm working, what kind of agency I'm working in at the moment, and where are they heading. From there, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of seen ICA, or as at least my sales guys say, ICO. So no, I did not finish a course with ICO, it was ICA. Again, incredible organization for anyone looking to get kind of that piece of paper to say, I know what I'm doing in compliance. The great thing about ICA, the entry requirements have nothing to do with your degree or what grade you've got for bachelor's or A-levels. They focus purely on your work experience. So depending on how long you've been doing compliance, that's the type of course you will get in. I personally got into level 4 reg compliance, finished that. LGSA, CIS, personally I haven't tried them yet, but I'm sure I will eventually. But these are other 2 institutions that I highly recommend to everyone. Look at the courses they have, again, for yourself, for people within your team. So let's move to stigmas of compliance. As David mentioned, compliance is usually seen as business prevention unit. Historically, we've always been seen as the sales blockers because we are doing the right thing and following the law. So I encourage everyone to break the stigma by dedicating time and effort to ensure that your decisions are visibly purposeful and productive in the eyes of sales and stakeholders. And I'll touch on how you actually do that with sales and stakeholders in a few minutes. Penalize versus educate. So we are the fun police. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard that. But what I try to always say and always educate my fellow colleagues is compliance is not a stick to beat our colleagues with. Just because I am kindly, or sometimes not so kindly, asking people to follow certain rules, to follow certain regulations or encouraging business to change the nature of how we do things is not because I am trying to be difficult or trying to beat them with a stick. It's an educational tool as well. So I encourage everyone to break the stigma by collaboration. Personally, what has worked for me, and I have the lovely Gaia in the audience as well, Gaia heads up our ED&I department. A few years ago, came across a GDPR issue internally at my organization, which could have potentially ended pretty bad. It didn't. Instead of penalizing the employees that were involved in leaving uninclusive comments on our CRM system, me and Gaia turned this around and collaborated. We've created language workshop. We started educating internal employees of why using the right language is not only the nice thing to do, but it has a GDPR concern surrounding it as well, such as subject access requests. The collaboration was probably not the one that people were expecting ED&I compliance, but it worked. We did a workshop, ran it internally a few times, ran it externally a few times, and we actually won the Princess Royal Trust Training Award for the language workshop. Lastly, the nature of compliance. So the tick box admin exercise used to avoid penalties, prosecutions, mitigate risk, and reputational damage. So let's break that stigma by making compliance an integral part of the business, which can affect change and initiate new processes. I think one of the biggest powers that we all hold as compliance professionals is we can influence change in our organizations. We're one of those people that can predict what is going to happen in the next 6-12 months. As David mentioned, I'm sure, or at least I am, always reading of all the new legislations, what's happening in the industry, what's the next thing coming up. And we can influence our businesses. And the only way to do that is through collaboration. So collaborating with the sales team. Building trust. I think building trust is one of the hardest things to do, especially working in recruitment agencies. I've been in recruitment consultancy field my whole compliance career, and definitely faced enough challenges. And I really want to touch on neurodiversity as well, and how neurodiversity affects how we should look at collaborating with the sales. Putting that time and effort into understanding how your fellow sales colleagues work can go an incredibly long way. I have an unwritten rule. Every agency I have worked for, I do two things. First, I break the system because I want to see what's wrong, what I need to improve. Second, I spend time with the sales guys. I will sit with them, I will understand their way of working, I will understand their clients, what their expectations are from the compliance team. Also, what are the pain points that they've had previously? And ultimately look at them as your internal clients. They are your internal clients. Once you build the trust, I always find it opens so many more avenues for you. It's not only sales guys stop hiding stuff from you and only pretty much come to you when it hits the fan and then please help, please fix. But it also helps you to determine your next steps with the senior stakeholders, with the board of directors, because you already have that trust. For example, when I work with account managers that look after the government sector, we all know placing anyone at the government sector, security clearances, BPSS, they take such a long time. Through building those relationships internally, the sales guys feel comfortable enough telling me, Pat, in the next 3 months, I'm going to have this, and that person potentially going to the home office. Can you please start working on gathering all the information, making sure there are no delays in start dates as well. And client engagement. So collaborating with the sales team, I believe builds a direct route to the client contacts, and for us as compliance professionals, and also provide sales team with more time to focus on building genuine working relationships. The way I put it to our sales team is, let me be the bad guy. I'll speak with the client when we're negotiating terms, when we're onboarding new clients, when we're going through bids, RFIs, audits, whatever it might be. Through that building trust, they trust me enough to speak with the clients directly. I am the bad guy. The sales guy can always come in as the knight in shining armor, which we all know they absolutely love. From there, internal stakeholder management. Again, how do we make compliance a sustainable strategy? Understand before being understood. That's one thing I always keep in mind whenever I'm talking to my board of directors. My CIO, my CEO, my CFO, do not understand, and in the nicest way possible, probably do not really care about what is happening in the ISO world, what is happening in the RF35 world. They just want the job to be done. So I flip it. I'm going to understand what you want and build my strategy around it. Industry requirements and competitor analysis. So as I said, compliance has an additional power within the company to predict what is the next big thing. Competitor analysis is probably one of the most powerful tools that I used when dealing with internal stakeholders. I'll talk about business accreditations a bit later, but for example, ESG, David touched on B Corp. I'm sure most of you have heard B Corp, EcoVadis, such a huge things like right now, which as compliance professionals, you also want to kind of collect those business badges to say, build your experience as well, that this is the process I've gone through. How I get the stakeholders to not only sign off the budget, but understand where we are heading through compliance is competitor analysis. Most recently, I looked at every single competitor of Sparta Global, realized nobody has EcoVadis, nobody has FSQS, nobody has ISO 14000. Let's get it. Presented it to the board as an additional selling point. And all of the sudden, we are becoming that first supplier, that gold standard supplier that has all of these accreditations. Cost saving. So whilst compliance is not the department that's going to bring in the money, it's sometimes really hard to prove return of investment as well. It's a massive cost-saving tool. And non-compliance can lead to a roadblock of funding. Again, if your organization is potentially looking to obtain an investment, compliance plays a vital part. Our organization, we've gone through incredible and probably the most painful audit process in the world as we were prepping for majority investment from Inflection. One of the main reasons we have been able to get it is because of our compliance. Compliance acts as a safety nest for investors, as compliance provides evidence that the company is capable of facilitating growth. Again, how you present the importance of compliance and strategy. The company, if the company is thinking of selling, floating, getting in an investment, big FS organizations are not going to look at recruitment agencies who can't facilitate growth. It will also allow the internal stakeholders management team to shift their focus from business management to business growth. They will simply not have to worry what is happening internally. Once the right processes, procedures, compliance frameworks are in place, they can shift their focus on business growth and employee retention. I believe in the current world that we live in, especially with the world of ESG and Gen Z, we are living in a very much social, the current generation is very much socially aware. So areas such as ESG, such as modern slavery, such as ED&I is no longer a nice thing to do. Employees, good talent, are now becoming more and more rightfully picky of the type of organization they're going to work for. So employee retention, again, becomes a huge part of compliance. And finally, do you speak my language? Legal jargon and technical terms may appear as unrelatable to the senior stakeholders. I always think of them whenever I have to present to the board of directors. If our IT manager or our internal Java developer came to me and started talking about Python as that, I would most likely look at him like a two-headed dragon because I do not understand anything. So that's how ultimately I look at our stakeholders. I don't throw in legal jargon, and every time I have to present to them, speak to them, try to get them to agree to do something I need them to do, I keep this in mind. Sales are responsible for bringing in revenue into the company, and compliance is responsible for making sure the company gets to keep it. And lastly, I just want to quickly touch on business accreditations. Again, if any of you are thinking or hopefully trying to work towards putting compliance into the company strategy, strongly advise you to use one of these accreditations. If your organization specializes in FS recruitment, financial sector, FSQS is a huge one. The process is a bit painful. It does cost a few £1,000s to get the accreditation. However, that straight away opens doors to huge banking clients such as Lloyds, Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, as they are all now require FSQS as part of their RFIs and bids. Stronger Together. So again, as David touched on about modern slavery, Stronger Together is the only organization in the UK and the world that almost gives you an accreditation and you can become their business partner by going through a very intense audit which covers everything to do with labor rights. Again, if you work with clients within the retail sector, this is a huge requirement for them. B Corp, again, ESG, B Corp audit. Personally, I'm currently going through B Corp audit. The most painful process, it takes roughly 12 months and it can cost up to £25,000 to get the accreditation. Again, if you are, however, a huge international organization or you're at least targeting huge international clients, this is the next big thing for you to look for. EcoVadis, sustainability rating. So EcoVadis gives your organization a badge in sustainability. Again, huge requirement for anyone who provides services to clients that could potentially be in the provision of products. So whether it's retail, pharmaceutical, anything that you can think of that actually provides products, EcoVadis is a must. And ISO, in particular ISO 22301, which is business continuity. Following COVID, I think we've all seen how much it shakes up the recruitment world. Having that ISO in business continuity, again, gives your clients the peace of mind that in their supply chain, they have a supplier that not only knows what they are doing, they were actually confident enough in their process to go through this huge international rigorous audit to obtain this badge. And good cooperation. Not that known in the UK, however, is becoming bigger and bigger in compliance world. Good cooperation is, I think, pretty much the only compliance business accreditation. And when I say business compliance, good cooperation looks at every single bit of your business, from candidate onboarding to offboarding to supply chain management to internal audits to ESG to terms of business to internal policies, procedures to training. My prediction is that in the next 2 years, this will become a huge accreditation as well. And that is it.